negative 5th round pick.
Again, I'm just a fat dude sitting on the couch, but like, I watch a lot of football.
I'm here to kick ass and make steaks, and I'm all out of steaks.
Year 1, he was like, all right, guys, I don't know what Dom taught you, but you need to have 11 guys on the field.
A trained orangutan could have done a better job than Ron Zerks. I mean, not even like well-trained.
Welcome, Green Bay Packers fans. This is the Titletown Sound Podcast, episode 234. And this is the podcast that's it's for fans of the Green Bay Packers and fans of horns. James, what's your favorite horned animal?
My favorite horned animal is the ibis or ibis. Ibis?
I thought that was a bird.
My favorite horned animal
is a bird.
I don't know. I just
my favorite Bill Clinton.
Well, and we mentioned it because April 16th, that's the day we're recording, is of course National Horny Day. Kevin, your favorite horned animal, if you had to choose just one?
Oh, I could not choose just one. They're all my favorite. If you're a horned animal, you're a fan of I'm a fan of yours.
Can I tell you what my least favorite horny thing is? Former Wisconsin Badgers quarterback, current Florida State quarterback, Alex Hornibrook. He's horrible, just terrible. And I started a hashtag for him called #FeelingHorny whenever he did anything good, and I could never use it.
Chris and I used to go to school with the Horny family.
Oklahoma? I didn't know you lived in Oklahoma. I thought you just lived in Baltimore.
That was their name. Yeah. All right, gentlemen. Today on the podcast, we've got we're going to read other people's news stories. We will comment on them most likely. We're going to cover what's going to happen to the NFL. There are contingencies in place. And also, gentlemen, I don't know if you know this, but the betting lines have been released for the over-unders. Overs under?
Overs under.
Ovi.
For the
Ovi under.
Over-unders for all teams that play in all stadia throughout for all NFL teams. So we are going to discuss the Packers over-under and maybe explore some other teams as well. We are joined in the chat by James Hamblin, patron, and make sure you're heavy on the B when you talk about Mr. Hamblin. All right, so that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's get to the news as I try to get my soundboard to cooperate. So we got some news coming up.
Spanning the globe to bring you all of the news that's fit to podcast. It's Kevin Christofko.
All right, Kevin, there is not a whole lot going on right now, so I'm going to need you to give me some good headlines. Let's start off with a softball with story number 1. How about that?
Oh, this is the biggest screwball I've been dealt all. This is a tough one.
All right, so are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Willie Davis has died. Oh, that's terrible news.
Indeed it is.
Good choice not to make fun of a man's death. Packers and NFL legend Willie Davis passes away at the age of 85. He was a not only Packers but Pro Football Hall of Famer. He was on 5 Packers championship teams. James, as a defensive end, he was a beast because I think the most impressive thing when you read his football bio is that he played in all 162 games he was supposed to. He didn't
as a defensive end.
Right. He's not a punter. This is a defensive end. Didn't miss a game in 10 years with the Packers.
Yeah, he was a badass. Legitimately, he was just a badass, and they didn't keep stats for sacks, I think, until the early 80s, I think, or mid 80s. But I think most pro football historians say that if they had have kept stats for quarterback sacks, Willie Davis would probably have the lead or at least be in the top couple right now. So. He was, and he went on. He stuck around in the area, which I thought was awesome. After he retired, and he owned a whole bunch of radio stations. In the Milwaukee area. So I mean, that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, and he's a guy that I think gets lost in the greatness of those Lombardi era Packers teams. He was, like I said, he was on 5 championship teams himself, including the first 2 Super Bowls. And he's a guy that you don't hear a whole lot about. He's not as, he's not a quarterback. He's not, Paul Horton.
He doesn't poop in hampers.
Well, we know he's never been caught.
He didn't own a tiger.
Was that Travis Jervey again that owned the tiger?
That was Travis Jervey.
Very prescient these days with Tiger King, and yeah. What was there a story like? What happened? Like at some point, did they realize, crap, Travis owns a tiger?
I think the Green Bay, like the Brown County authorities, got involved and made him. I don't know. I stopped reading after I read that Travis Jervey owned a tiger. If anybody wants to do that research for us and let us know, that'd be great.
All right, so that's story number 1, and again, a guy who gets lost in the shuffle, I think, and doesn't get enough notoriety for how amazing of a player he was. I think he was a 5-time All-Pro, if I'm not mistaken.
He was just on probably the toughest defense, or one of the toughest defenses of an entire era. He was probably the best player, or at least the toughest player. So, and from all accounts, he was just a stellar human being too. So, RIP to him. How cool is it though that there are so many Packers in the Hall of Fame that we have enough to get lost in the shuffle?
And we get legends lost in the shuffle.
Yeah. Like you don't see that from certain other. I don't know. I'm just going to throw in Vikings. We don't see that from them.
Yeah, this is why I respect the Bears organization, because you do have a bit of that. Like you have some legendary Bears, and I love when they're terrible, but like I will never respect the Vikings. I just don't think I will, or the Lions. Although I begin to feel sorry for the Lions, but the Vikings, if that organization rots for all eternity, that will have been too short for me.
Yeah, there's them and their stupid stadium. How did we? I feel bad. This should be memorializing Willie Davis, not a bitch session about the Vikings.
This is what Willie would have wanted.
You know what? It probably. Good point.
Should we move on to the next story?
I think that's a good segue.
All right, here we go.
Should the Pack check their back for a draft day hack? No, not like Ted Thompson, a cyber attack.
Whoa. I'm going to need that one again because I need to savor it. That was all right. Oh.
Make sure you record this time.
All right, do you want me to read it again for you?
I do. I would just want to hear it pure without the backing vocals over it. Or whatever.
All right, okay. I'm just going to read it normally, okay?
Sure.
Should the Pack check their back for a draft day hack? No, not like Ted Thompson, a cyber attack.
I mean, I feel
that's
like
my Dr. Seuss headline for the year.
It doesn't get any better than that. That's perfection in a headline.
I feel like we should really just shut down the show after that.
Yeah, like there's no reason to keep going.
Costanza.
The story is that Ravens' John Harbaugh is worried of a draft day hacking. And I'm going to admit that before the show, I pulled this article up and intended to read it. And I still intend to read it at some point. James, did you read this story?
Yeah. So basically, what it boils down to is that, as we all know, I think by now the NFL is going to go with a draft. It's next week already. Where it's going to be from the general manager's homes, basically, and all the players' homes. Like there's not going to be any venue. It's going to be, Cyber Kitty 69-420 drafts. This guy.
Some super old white dude.
I am actually kind of more excited to watch how this plays out. Like there's going to be like the general manager that forgets to wear pants and like stands up on the Zoom conference and we see his balls. Like I just hope there you go. But that's going to happen. No, but I am kind of excited to see how this works. And if I'm John Harbaugh, I don't think he's crazy. Because if I'm someone who's into hacking or like not even hacking, but where you just get enough information that you can like call in and pretend to be the Packers and make their pick, like something like that. There are dozens, if not hundreds of people out there planning to try to do that.
Well, and how valuable would it be if you're a competing organization to be able to listen to every other organization's discussions? I mean, I personally don't think that the concern comes from commandeering the draft and taking somebody that they weren't going to necessarily take. I think that the issue comes more from people spying and relaying that information. I think that the fact that if you're going to use Zoom and there are some known issues there, then yeah, you should probably be concerned a little bit. But I don't honestly, I think that the teams are smarter than this. And I think that if teams are using Zoom, I don't know if they're necessarily using Zoom to really communicate what they need to communicate, right? Like you can call somebody on a telephone. You don't need to be face-to-face with them on a Zoom in order to do this.
All I want to see is the Vikings or the Lions go up to, it's their pick. And then all of a sudden it just zooms into Julian Assange. And like he starts just railing against the proletariat for half an hour. That's all I want.
The ninth pick.
That's good television right there.
Julian Assange chooses freedom over tyranny. I think you're onto something. But I do think there is a concern, not that it would really affect anything, because it's not like somebody's going to call in and be like, hey, the Browns pick, Andre Rison out of retirement. Like, that's not what they're worried about.
Oh, that's a good pick for the Browns.
That's not going to be what derails the draft. I think they are worried about that because it's embarrassing.
Sure.
If something like that happens, it's a big deal because the NFL got beaten. But go ahead, please.
Would that be as embarrassing as not getting your pick in on time twice?
No, that's not as embarrassing. But did you see, this is an unrelated story. Did you see that someone was giving out Roger Goodell's address online? So for the night of the draft, because he's actually broadcasting from his basement. So the night of the draft, people can go outside his house and boo him when he announces the first pick. Now, look, if you're doing that, you're an ass because you're because you're violating social distancing. If you can all stay significantly apart or have just one real loud dude that you nominate and he is your designated booer, then I support you.
Just Rick with a bullhorn.
But if we are listening to the draft from his basement and there is booing, now if he had a sense of humor, he would pipe in like a sound effect of booing.
Or have his mom boo him or something from down the stairs.
I love that Roger Goodell lives with his mom.
Well, when you say he's in the basement, I just assume his mom is upstairs.
Roger, is your show over yet? Roger, I want to watch Murder, she wrote.
Roger, do you want some pizza rolls?
Roger,
I need the dial-up. Get off the phone.
Roger, I got the 4 cheese for you.
I like that last portion of it. He became his mother became very Jewish.
I wasn't gonna say it.
Roger, it's a mitzvah down there.
I don't want to overcommit us because I know we're lazy, but look, we are going to spend what's 24 times 7? That much time in our houses between now and the next show. I think a skit with Roger Goodell in his basement and his mom yelling down to him. I think that has to happen.
Roger, it's your turn to let the dog out, Roger. She's standing at the door.
How would you like it if you couldn't pee, Roger? Let the dog out. My friends are over.
Do the draft.
Oh, sweet Lord. That's good stuff.
Right. So we might have to do that next week. You got more out of that story than I expected. It started with a strong line, ended with a strong concept. I'm going to give us an A for that section of the show. You guys didn't know we're going to get automatic feedback tonight. So
3 3/4 stars.
All right.
Self-evaluated.
Story number 3. You got to self-scout. It's important. All right.
Yep.
Story number 3.
Okay. The richest Christian since Joel Osteen? How will McCaffrey's new deal affect Aaron Jones' future? I messed that one up, but you get the idea. And I had some pretty good headlines tonight, considering there was a death in one of them.
Kevin's on his A+ game this week.
The richest Christian since Joel Osteen. Christian McCaffrey.
Because he's actually a terrible person. So
this is he is an awful person. Okay, so Christian McCaffrey signs a new deal with the Panthers. He signed for, let me find the numbers for you. 4-year deal worth $64 million. About half of that, or a little more than half of that, is guaranteed. Well over half, I should say. And I guess the question becomes, you pay this guy so much, you make him the number 1 paid running back in the history of the league, and that's where he is right now. What does this do for Aaron Jones? First, let's talk about what you think about this contract in and of itself, and then we'll talk about its relation to the Packers, how it affects the Packers. But James, I see a running back get this kind of money, and that's how I feel about it. That's how I feel about it. I'm speechless about it. I just don't think it makes sense.
That is an insane amount of money for a running back. I'm sorry. And in today's NFL, no, I understand he's really good, and he's the best running back in the game today. There's no question about it. But he's the only weapon they have. They don't even have a quarterback. I mean, they have somebody who's going to be quarterback, but I don't know who it is. And like, they don't have any receivers. It's going to be him. So at some point, he's not going to be able to handle 280, 300 touches a year or whatever it is he's getting. It's just a lot of money to commit to a position where you get injured more often than other positions that could also use personnel. So,
and there's a couple of factors. The couple of factors here. One is, like you said, you're going to take wear and tear as a running back. It's just going to happen. You're going to get beat up, especially when you are the focal point, the only point in the offense. I think the other point is that from best to worst running back, you just don't have as big a gap as some other positions. It's crazy to me to think that you're going to put that much money into a running back with the way the rules are in today's NFL that so favor the passing game. James, it just seems to me, or Kevin, either one, it just seems to me that it's just too much to invest in that position. I would rather invest that kind of money in a left tackle.
Well, it seems to me like a team that doesn't have anything else to invest in, right? Like that's kind of what it feels like. Like, yes, Christian McCaffrey's a great weapon, but you need it's just like a quarterback. You can't have just a great quarterback and no running game and no wide receivers. Like, just having a Christian McCaffrey there isn't going to make you a great team. Like, you have to have pieces around it, and it makes it harder to have those pieces when you're paying the guy. I mean, when you pay anybody at their position when they're being paid the most, that's going to be tough to stomach. So, yeah, I mean, like, what happens when how are they going to get a quarterback? Are they going to be able to pay for a free agent? Are they going to draft one? Like, is it going to jive when that quarterback is actually any good? Is McCaffrey still going to be part of the team? I don't know. It seems like a lot of money to pay a running back in this day and age.
We have been informed in the live chat by Dakota that they do have a quarterback now. It's Teddy Bridgewater. I had forgotten that they went out and signed Teddy Bridgewater. So, I mean, he's a decent quarterback. He's, but who's he going to throw the ball? You're basically paying Christian McCaffrey to be a running back and a wide receiver simultaneously.
And when you say Teddy Bridgewater, it's not like you're saying like vintage Brett Favre or, in his prime Joe Montana. You're saying Teddy Bridgewater, and there's still some question marks there. Specifically at the end.
Yes, right at the very end of that statement, there's like, can he throw the ball when he's not on the Saints? I don't know. We'll find out. Because he's going to have to throw it to Christian McCaffrey because there's nobody else.
So let's now go to talking about what the Packers, how it affects Packers and how it affects Aaron Jones' next contract. I'm going to say I don't think it does. It might push it up a little bit, but the Packers traditionally, now this isn't necessarily the Brian Gutekunst Packers, but the Packers, I think, intelligently don't overpay for running backs. It's a position they're just not going to spend a fortune in. They believe running backs are, on a talent basis, aren't as far apart as some other positions. I don't think it's going to do much, but maybe inch it up a little bit just because now the market is a little bit higher. I don't know.
I think what it will do is it'll make it harder for the Packers to sign him, because if Aaron Jones thinks he deserves that kind of money and the Packers don't, then we're at an impasse, right? Like Aaron Jones recognizes that he's not that guy and he doesn't want that money, then maybe we have a chance. But
even if he is, I guess my point is, even if he is that guy, they're not going to pay him that money. Even if he was objectively the best running back in the league and had better stats than Christian McCaffrey, they're just not. I just don't think it's one play.
It's still a hard sell, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think what it boils down to is Christian McCaffrey is
what it Tim's down to.
Yes, is the Carolina Panthers. That he's the franchise. I mean, it's Teddy Bridgewater and Christian McCaffrey. Luke Kuechly retired. Their defense isn't what it used to be. Cam Newton is going to go dress weird somewhere else. The Packers have the luxury of having other playmakers. The whole team identity isn't around a running back. It's not around Aaron Jones. It's around Aaron Rodgers, frankly, which is why they have so much money tied up in him. So, production-wise, Aaron Jones was fantastic last year, but that's 1 year. Let's see what he does this year. It's his contract year. And,
And I think someone watching or listening could say, well, you just said you can't spend that much money on one position, but you would do that on quarterback. And my response to that is, yeah, absolutely. But there aren't 32 capable NFL starting quarterbacks on the planet.
Yeah.
Right? There are 32 capable starting running backs. They might not be as good as Christian McCaffrey, but I'm going to be able to find somebody that's pretty damn good.
And if Christian McCaffrey literally touched the ball every single play, we would say, okay, that makes sense, right? Because the quarterback touches the ball every single play. Running backs, they might be in the field, but they're not necessarily going to get the ball every single time. So that makes it a little harder.
Not only that, but that position, it's just not as valuable as it once was. And I don't want to say running backs aren't a dime a dozen. At least Christian McCaffrey running backs aren't. But you can, I can get one for $15 instead of $20, and it's not a bad knockoff. The drop off in talent isn't
it's like multo meal of running
backs.
Got
to go to the running back Aldi. We'll be fine.
Or Lidl or Lidl. Is it Lidl or Lidl?
I don't
know. I mean, we have them, but I don't know.
It's like Aldi, like Aldi got some self-respect and got some nice items.
I will not tolerate Aldi slander.
Yeah, Aldi's pretty much the best store in the world.
I love Aldi. Oh my god!
Go to a Lidl or Lidl, and you'll say, Chris, you were right. It is like it's like Aldi's big brother. That's what it's like.
Do you guys remember that baseball player Corey Lidle? Didn't he die in a plane crash or something? That was pretty crazy.
I think he did. Yes.
Yeah,
but not like Roy Halladay.
Right. Well, yeah, I was doing Roy Halladay research. That's how I do that. So just because I saw the story that Roy Halladay, the former Philadelphia Phillies pitcher, had died. Apparently, he was on amphetamines and doing tricks in his airplane when that happened. So probably not a good mix. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say probably not a great idea if you're listening to not mix amphetamines and
aerial acrobatics.
If
you can avoid putting those two together, I would recommend avoiding.
If you have the means to avoid it, I would recommend you do so.
All right. Before we go to break, let's talk about our OG patrons. Those are patrons who have been around the longest, who have put up the most support, and who we frankly love dearly. Kevin, would you talk about our OGs?
Yes, we have 7 that I would like to mention, and the interesting fact about them today is that none of them have ever been busted for amphetamines and flying an airplane at the same time. So we have Scott Neer, Jason Hicks, Milo Meadsong, Hunter Scherr, Chris Korsmo, Jeff Augustine, and James Hamblin. Thank you to everybody who was a patron.
James brings up a good point. Again, he's watching us live, and he asks, I don't like Aldi because I need a quarter to get a cart. Who carries cash anymore?
See,
much less change.
See, in a previous life, when I was a food delivery person, I got a really nice zip-up insulated bag. So I don't even need the Aldi cart. I just take that bag with me, and it's just as big as a cart, and I can carry it around, so I can avoid the change if I need to.
Also, what you can do is there's always little old ladies at Aldi. Just distract them,
just
steal
beat them up. Yeah.
Use as much force as you need to. All right, before we go to break, another way that you can support us, and we're going to talk about it in the commercial, is by leaving us an Apple Podcast review. Now, you can become a patron by going to patreon.com/TTSO. But if you leave us a review and a rating, it helps people find the show. I want to tell you, we only need, gentlemen, 38 new ratings to get us to 300. We are still 5 stars. So if you have 5 stars in your heart for us, and you're bored, and I look,
you're in your house right now.
Hold on, I know you're bored. You don't have. You're sitting in your house, and you have been. So, give us a damn rating and get us to 300. Thank you. Sorry. Could you guys see up my nose when I was doing that?
A little bit.
I saw some nose hairs. Yeah, they're pretty nice.
Yeah.
Looks like you've been trimming.
I have to. If I don't, it's like George of the Jungle going on up there. I'm not young anymore. All right, gentlemen, we're gonna take a break, and when we come back, we will talk about the NFL's plans for what happened, for shortening the season if they have to, as well as we're gonna talk about the Packers and other teams over/under predictions. All that plus more, though I don't know what the more is, and I can't find the commercial. There it is. Yeah, I don't know. I say more, but that was just an empty promise, and I was just padding. There will be no more. That's all. That's it.
Did you know that you can help support our show financially without any additional cost to you? Well, if you use Amazon, and let's face it, who doesn't? You can go through our Amazon affiliate link, and we'll get a small portion of the proceeds. You pay nothing extra, and you still get your awesome stuff delivered in like 2 days. So go to www.titletownsoundoff.com/Amazon. And just order like you normally would, and you help the show. That's www.titletownsoundoff.com/Amazon. Happy shopping.
If you would like to support the show and help others find it, give us a review and a rating. Go to Apple Podcasts and write something nice and give us 5 stars. Thanks.
All right. Welcome back. Episode 234, Titletown Sound Podcast. Trying to find, because I'm so well prepared for the show, all of the over-unders for all of the teams, which I will find before we get to that portion. But before we do that at all, James,
Yes.
we have patrons that we have to recognize, that we'd like to recognize, because they're wonderful people.
Yes. We should recognize them heartily and heavily. I do everything heavily. We have Paul Goldsack, heavy D, Kyle Turpening, heavy P, Nick, nope, not him anymore, DJ Lightfoot, heavy foot, and Will Zine Savage, heavy Z. All those guys are immune forever from the coronavirus. So congratulations. No, they're not really though. Don't take that for don't.
Yeah,
Socially distance.
Advice from a half-ass Packers fan podcast.
Socially distanced. God bless it.
All right. So let's talk about what could happen and what may happen. There is a story now that the NFL, who has planned to release the schedule, like I want to say the first week in May, which is much later than normal, is building in contingencies into the schedule. For instance, if the season needs to be shortened, if they have to do something there, they're also putting together plans that would involve watching the games, or I should say having the games in stadiums without fans or with fans or a mixture of the two as the season goes on. So the schedule, when it comes out, will have these built-in contingencies. James, what do you think this is going to mean for the way the schedule looks?
I don't know. Like it's the whole thing is just so new and so it's unprecedented. I don't, it's going to be interesting to see. They're going to, in my opinion, they have to just release the schedule as if, it's normal. Like they can't be like, okay, games start in November now.
They're good. From what I understand, the schedule will be released as if the season is starting on time. But I believe there will be contingency. So, for instance, it might be like if the season starts 2 weeks late, we play games 2 through 17, and then or games 3 through 17, then we add 1 and 2 onto the end, and then we move the season back 2 weeks. That might be part of the contingency.
Yeah, maybe we have playoff football, heading into March. Who knows?
Or maybe they overload the non-conference games. This is what I think you'll see. The non-conference games will be up front. So that if you have to lose a month of the season, if you're losing 4 games, you're going to lose non-conference games, which I think means what will happen is the division games, again, I'm guessing, but the division games might get backloaded so that you have all 6 of your games in the second half of the season. That's, again, a guess.
I wouldn't be surprised if the season is shortened to a point where if they play the season, your choices are you play 6 games all against your division. Each division winner goes to the playoffs. Because I don't know, like this isn't the football season is not going to start on time.
No,
it's just not. And it's
I want to say 2 NFL players tested positive today for coronavirus. As long as if they're going to play the season, they have to be certain that they can keep an outbreak from happening among the players.
They have to be able to test every player, every piece of everybody in personnel before every single game, and know the results before the game. Yep. It's just not like
logistically.
If you think things are going to go back to normal, it's just not going to happen.
Right, because you don't look. Here's the thing. It's easier for them to get away with a fan transmitting the disease to another fan than it is if the whole friggin' league of players gets. Like that's the problem. You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't necessarily know the outbreak started at Ford Field. Although
you sounded like Cliff Clavin just then.
He kind of did, yeah.
Thank you. I think I'm not sure, but anyway, they have to be able to be sure. Like you said, they can't have games without knowing that everyone in that game is testing negative for COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how it's going to be. So how is the Major League Baseball? How are they handling things? Because this is really interesting. I'm going to give you I'm not a huge baseball fan, but what I understand is they're going to play or it's possible. I don't know if they decided anything, but they put together a contingency where you're going to play basically all the games in 2 cities. Like you're going to play them like spring training, right?
Yeah, basically. So their plan, from what I understand, it is just we'll play all the games in 2 or 3 different cities in Arizona, no fans. And, the players are, we'll test them. There'll be constant testing of all the personnel and which is fine if they're able. But I do have a slight problem with just from a standpoint of why
are tests going to sports teams and not like regular people?
Yes. Like Wisconsin, we have no test here. They just don't exist. So why is
well they do, it's just the Bucks have them all in their locker room.
Yeah, and that's it. The Brewers and the Bucks got them all. So why can I not get tested, but somebody from the Tampa Bay Rays can, without any questions? That bothers me.
So James asks if there are games there likely will be no fans. How do you guys feel about that? Personally, I think football is one of the few sports where if you have no fans, I think it has the least effect on a game. Maybe hockey, but hockey on TV is awful anyway. But I think an NFL game, the experience from home is so good. And if you don't have fans, I think that opens up some fun things you might be able to do during the broadcast. So I'm kind of interested to see what a game looks like with no fans. At that point, we will be so starved and parched for sports that, we wouldn't care.
Yeah, I Gary Bettman, the commissioner of the NHL, came out yesterday or 2 days ago and said they will not play without fans, basically, because he said that.
And also, they're also a gate-driven sport. They need that money from the gate,
right? And that was that's he couldn't say that. So, but what he did say was the fans are the energy and blah 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 blah. When everybody knows, well, NHL makes their money off of gate receipts, not necessarily TV. So at least proportionally. I actually would enjoy, I think, watching at least one game without fans because I like to hear the stuff that happens on the field. And I think if they mic'd it up and you could actually hear, the players talking smack to each other and, referees making their decisions, kind of like the XFL was before they declared bankruptcy and screwed over all their employees.
I mean, honestly, I think if you're watching the game and there's no fans and you can hear the coronavirus being spread, it's a win.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't. And the challenge with football as well is you have such big rosters. You've got more dudes to monitor, and that makes it difficult.
I mean, and you say that about the test, James. Like you can't get a test. I mean, that's 150 tests per team per week. Like it's just logistically, we're nowhere close to playing football, guys. That's the thing I think they're like we're gonna have the draft and we're gonna talk about it and everything, but like when push comes to shove, we are light years from playing football.
And not only are we light years from playing football, but you also have to have the localities that are hosting football games agree to allow you to play them.
Florida. I mean, let's go to Florida because if wrestling is an essential service.
Oh my God.
Okay. I mean, so as a lot of listeners and viewers and you two know, I'm a big wrestling fan. I have been ever since I was a kid. And something happened this week to make me pretty much give up on it forever. At least not forever, but at least for now. And that was the state of Florida. The governor declared wrestling an essential service one day after Vince McMahon's wife's super PAC pledged $18 million to the Republican Party there. And I don't want to get political on our podcast at all. I'm not trying to do that.
Oh, who cares? Let's do it.
If this is a patron podcast, I'd swear it's wrong. And then the next day he fires like 30 people, 30 talents, who now will have no work because you can't wrestle anywhere outside of Florida.
So basically able to lay them off until he rehires them if he wants to later.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, and that's despite having a $500 million slush fund and being worth $2 billion himself. So look, I have a problem with that.
What the hell were we talking about? Oh, the contingency plans for the league. I think that, what are they going to do? Like, I guess London's out of the question. I don't think they're going to announce London games this year.
Or Jacksonville.
I mean,
they're going to have to stay in Jacksonville.
But finally, in Jacksonville, playing in an empty stadium will be in vogue. So they'll be like,
they're just going to play all the games in Jacksonville. They'll still sell tickets, but they're just going to play them all in Jacksonville.
Just for 2 games this year, they'll make all of their employees speak with a British accent.
Cheerio. Here, have some.
They'll change the field to 100 meters.
Nacho. I can't say nacho with a British accent. I don't think you're supposed to.
Would you like some nachos?
A cheese crisp.
So if the NFL had to go to that format where they're playing in stadiums without fans, I think they would be okay compared to some other sports. I think baseball is counting on if they can get a tight enough contingency plan where they basically make a bubble around these players, and that's what they'll do. They'll get whole hotels.
But
The players will never.
I mean, but like Mike Trout has said, he's going to be present for his kid's birth, so he's going to miss 3 weeks of the season. Like they might have the season, but it's going to suffer big time.
But you don't. I guess what they're calculating, and I think they're probably right, is if they can have this relatively airtight system, then they can be the first sport back.
Sure,
there's a lot of value in that because I can only watch the Golden Girls seasons so many times, and that's a lot of times. But at some point, I want new content. And
what? Hey, why don't you have your kids create some new Golden Girls content? I think your kids would make a great Sophia and Dorothy. I'm just saying.
If I could just get my children to go to the basement and shut up when I need to, a work phone call. I can't tell you how many times I've been on the phone with a client and my daughter comes screaming around the corner because she didn't get a ring pop because I don't know why she didn't get one.
That's why when my kids are acting up, I just scream to them, "Shady Pines," and they seem to understand.
All right. Our next topic we're going to talk about is over-unders, and Super Bowl odds. Okay, so it will take me a little bit to find everybody, but I've got everybody's Super Bowl odds to win their conference, odds to win their division, and let's see, they're over-under. Okay, so I will tell you, wow. We're first going to obviously explore the NFC North. This is interesting. The favorites to win the NFC North, there is a tie between, let's see, just want to make sure, between the Packers and the Vikings. I'm a little bit, frankly, I'm just going to give you the over-under number as well because I'm flabbergasted by this number. The Packers over-under is 8.5.
Yeah, that's insane to me.
Well,
right?
Considering they're only going to play 6 games, I think that's pretty good.
Let's assume we have a full season, right? If that's the case, putting the Packers at 8.5 seems less than charitable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that you look at last year and you say they overachieved, right? I mean, I think that if you watch the games, you would say no, the Packers won the games they were supposed to win. But I think from a grand scheme, you might say that they overachieved, and maybe that's where that's coming from.
That they're not as talented as a 13-3 team, but still, to go to if it was 9.5, I can respect that because predicting anything over 10 wins is usually foolhardy for any team. I understand I did that last year, but it really is. So 9.5, I can understand. 8.5, yeah. But so let's look at it in context of the rest of the NFL North, where you've got the Bears. Their odds to win the NFC are 11-1. Packers are 7-1. The Bears are projected at 8.5 over/under as well, same as the Packers. Vikings at 9 and Lions at 6.5.
So the Packers according to this, the Packers and the Bears could very well have the same record when all is said and done, right? But the way they've ranked them, they've decided, they might have the same record, but the Packers definitely beat them both times.
Well, the Packers are favored to win the division over the Bears,
right? With with ostensibly the same record, yeah.
Right. So odds to win the NFC for the Packers 7-1. This is what is just so weird to me. Odds to win the NFC are 7-1, but they're only at 8.5 on the over/under. How does that work? Because the Vikings are 14-1 to win the NFC.
Really?
Yeah.
So
but I think it's because the division matchups, right?
So
that's because if they all have 9 wins at the end of the season, they just assume that the Packers are going to win those division matchups and win the division.
So what you're saying is maybe they predict the NFC North to be a better division than we thought and to beat each other up a little bit.
Which is fine, but okay, so they have the Vikings over under at 9, right? Or 9.5?
9.
And they have the Packers at 8.5. So they're expecting the Vikings to get have a better record than the Packers in the regular season, but they would expect the Packers to win the NFC before the Vikings do.
Yes.
Because they expect the Packers to beat the Vikings.
Then
Right.
where are they expecting these other 7 wins for the Vikings to come? Like, this is – plus, have they not seen what's happened to the Vikings in the offseason? They don't have a defense anymore. Their defense all left.
Yeah, it's very strange to me. Any other teams that you guys – I know there are teams out there that you're interested in, and I'll find them for you. Well, let's go to the one that may be the most interesting for people, and
The
that
Rough
is
Riders?
the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, now with Tom Brady at the helm. What would you project their over-under to be, James?
Nah, you know me, I don't like Tom Brady. I think he's washed and done. So I'm going to say 8.5.
Okay.
That's what I'd say, 8.5.
They put it at 9, so you guys aren't too far off. So not a whole lot of love for the Brady Bucks, although 10 wins is pretty impressive. They put them at 17-1 to make this to what is this first? I gotta figure out what this first statistic is because it doesn't quite make sense.
What are the letters? What are the initials?
No, there's nothing. It's
just a number.
Okay, this is odds to win the Super Bowl. Okay, I thought so. So if we find the Packers are 16-1, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. The Vikings
That's not terrible.
Vikings are 30-1. And yet they're projected with the same over-under. That's what I find interesting. Okay, so the Buccaneers are 17-1 to win the Super Bowl, 8-1 to win the NFC, which is interesting. The Panthers over-under is 5.5.
Ooh.
5.5.
But hey, good thing you got Christian McCaffrey.
Because
Because you might be at 3.5 if you didn't have him.
You raised a good point, though. I think it was you that they were paying to keep their franchise. They were paying their franchise player, and they had to overpay. Maybe you, James, but they had to overpay in a sense because he's the only personality left on the damn team.
Right.
So, it does make sense. What other teams are we interested in?
Also, can I just real quick to Panthers fans, keep pounding is pretty stupid. So you should probably stop that.
That is the worst hashtag in all of.
Yeah,
That is so bad.
it reminds me of like there was an old Madden version, and Eddie George was a running back in this version of the game. And if you gave it to Eddie George enough in the game, John Madden would go on as one of those rants. He'd say, "Oh, Eddie George, he's a big pounder. You give it to him and he pounds and he pounds and he keeps pounding away and he'll pound some more." And he just says the word pound so many times that it's made me uncomfortable with the word pound. So now I'm no longer comfortable with the word pound, thanks to John Madden.
Well, it's just like it's. I would expect that hashtag from Pornhub. I wouldn't expect it from the NFL or from an NFL team. That's ridiculous.
It's like keep quarantine, keep pounding.
By the way, Pornhub, if you want to sponsor us, we'll take it.
That'd be amazing. The Titletown Sound podcast presented by Pornhub. We will call it that. I will name it that.
Oh, for sure.
We will live stream it on Pornhub. Kevin will be topless if you want. You will.
Body paint. I mean, really, let's be honest, guys. I know what the crowd wants.
I'll do the show in pasties. How about that? With tassels. That's just because I want to. That's not even what I.
Yeah, well, I mean, you already own the set, so you might as well use them.
Right. What the hell were we talking about? Oh, over-unders, right. Let's see. Arizona Cardinals are 50-1 to win the Super Bowl. I think that's generous. The San Francisco 49ers, their over-under looks to be the best. So this puts it in perspective. Nope, they have the same over-under as the Saints. I'm just checking other teams to see if we've got another team.
The Chiefs.
Hang on, I'll find out for you.
How do you guys like my do-rag here that I got going on? It was originally going to be my face mask, but...
Okay, so the Saints and the Niners are at 10.5. However, the Chiefs, you want to talk about gaudy numbers. The Chiefs over-under is 12.
Wow.
12. So is the Ravens. That's a lot of wins.
Do you guys see Tavares Jackson's sweet tattoo?
No.
It's basically like an entire chest piece, and it's got like a raven on it. Like, I think he just lost some leverage on his next deal.
Yeah, right. Like, oh, all right, you can go to that other team, but how big is that tattoo going to have to
Right?
be?
Yeah, you have to put like a little Steelers helmet on the Raven to make it work.
Or just get property of Joe Exotic.
Carol Baskin.
12. And then 12 is an enormous number. For an over-under, I should say.
Again, Pornhub, if you want to sponsor us, we'll
We'll what? We'll keep doing the show for your money? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. We're yeah, for sure. 12 seems, I mean, that's lofty. That's
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
you think about the bet. You're probably gonna get a push with those teams a lot. 12 seems about right. For the Ravens and you look, that's why I would take the under on both of these teams, because there's always one team that goes from being an unbeatable dynasty to getting like 7 wins the next year. Like, it just seems to happen.
Well, and it's crazy to me too, Chris, where you say the over-under is 12, right? And you think, 12 wins. Yeah, they could have that. And you think 13, ooh, that's tough. 11, ooh, that's a bad season. Like, it's just weird how, like, that number, and I mean, obviously Vegas knows what they're doing, but like, it's pretty good most of the time. Like, it's pretty spot on.
Yeah.
That's why you don't have too many people winning 500-1 bets on, the Orioles to win the World Series. It doesn't happen very often for a reason.
Right, exactly. Let's see.
I would just blame Chris Davis, but that's just me.
Let's see. Patriots are 20-1 to win the Super Bowl, and 8.5 their number for the
Who's their quarterback?
Is it
Tim
Teddy
Brady?
No, Teddy Bridgewater. It's like the Jets and Giants. He's going to play for both teams.
Okay. That's cool. That should be interesting.
It's I don't know.
Matt Castle. No, I know. It's Matt Castle.
I believe they're just gonna. They promised him his job back. I believe it's gonna be Drew Brees. I think or not Drew Brees. Drew Bledsoe, because they promised him his job back.
Wow, it was. He's not many people know he's been on the payroll this whole time, just waiting to see if Tom Brady left the team.
53-year-old Drew Bledsoe comes wheeling on out there.
Now, Kevin, you raise a good point that most of these numbers won't matter anyway, because if they play 16 games, I'll lay an actual golden egg. That would shock me.
Mm-hmm.
But these numbers are, they're interesting to look at. And the Lions, by the way, 60-1 to win the Super Bowl. That is generous. They're over under at 6.5. They are, in a word, terrible. Why? This leads me to question, like, why, if you're Matt Stafford, did you come back to get your brains beat in again? Money. Yeah, but you've got so much money.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Because he's a meathead. He's just a meathead. He's programmed to go out and do and play football. It doesn't matter, he's a meathead.
It's like, I don't know. It's bizarre because, like, I guess I kind of get it, right? Because, like, I like to play, like, sports recreationally, and not having the ability to play them now, like, kind of sucks. So I can understand how somebody who plays sports professionally would think to themselves, well, I'd rather do this for this team that's not going to be great than not do it at all. I can understand that. But
that's true, because I play for a crappy soccer team, and I'm not even getting paid millions.
It's just funny that of all the teams and all the players, like Matthew Stafford comes from a team where people notoriously retire early to avoid playing, and Matthew Stafford's the total opposite. He's like, nah, I'll just keep going. It's good. It's cool.
Matthew, you're 50. I'm good. I get.
Yeah, that direct deposit still hits every other Friday, so we're good.
Dakota says that Jared Stidman, who I'm pretty sure he made up, and Brian Hoyer, who I think played in the late 70s, are the Patriots quarterback this year. There's a long line of Hoyers.
Jared Stidman, he's related. He's married to Oprah, right?
That's Stedman.
Yeah.
Oh, Stedman.
Stedman. Now, Jared Stidham, wasn't he in those movies, the Taken movies?
Does he have a certain set of skills?
He has a certain set of.
I don't know. Well, we'll see, I guess. Hey-oh. Part of me wants Bill Belichick to take, just pick. He's like, go ahead. You assemble the quarterback for me and watch.
It's kind of a win-win, though, because if he does that for a couple of years, you can say, oh, well, Tom Brady, like that's going to diminish Tom Brady, right? But if he doesn't, then that's going to elevate Tom Brady. So we'll see.
Maybe it'll be like they need each other. They're parasitic to each other, and if
symbiotic relationship.
Terrible.
If they don't have each other, they both fizzle and die.
And Belichick calls up. He calls Brady up on the phone. He's like, "You're my pilot fish. I need you in my life." That was my Brady. That was my Belichick impersonation.
That was pretty good.
How would he say lamprey?
Lamprey. You just like mumble it and just say it real low. That's all.
We're on to Dallas. No, you're so much better. That was good. That's really good. All right, so can Bill Belichick be in the basement with Roger Goodell when his mom yells down?
Roger, would you and your friend Billy like a little bit of lemonade?
I've got Totino's, the brand name. I didn't get the generics.
There's actually some good opportunities for cross promotion there, Chris. I like that idea. Like his mom could. I've got the Totino's pizza rolls. They're delicious, fresh out of the oven.
#God.
I've got your Mrs. T's pierogies up here.
Exactly.
Did somebody say pierogies?
We're doing it live. Who needs to write it? We're doing it live. All right. We are a couple minutes short of an hour, but I think our faithful will understand. Not a whole lot to cover this week, but we appreciate you guys joining us and hope you're keeping sane, because I will admit it is not easy. Not really leaving the house much, not having interaction other than Skype, and this is some of the most social interaction I have during the week is doing this show. So hope for everybody's hanging in out there. And like I said, I know it's not easy. Kev, what do you got before we get out of here?
Yeah, it's bizarre because I would typically consider myself somebody who likes to stay home and not go up. The fact that I can't do it, it's kind of weird.
Right.
Like, I'm doing okay. Like I'm fine at home. I got stuff to do and kids to yell at and stuff. So we're fine. But I could totally understand how this is, can be really tough on some people. So, yeah. James, I've been hearing that my entire life, bud.
James Hamlin said the show is too short. He is unsubscribing. Wow. All right. Well, I don't blame you. This is a terrible show, but
joke's on you for subscribing in the first place.
James, out here. What do you got?
Again, yeah, like Chris said, everybody stay healthy, do what you're supposed to do. Don't be like one of those, yahoos that, decides that they're going to go out and express their constitutional rights by getting coronavirus. If you've made it 58 minutes into this thing, tweet us the word. We'll go with let's do I'm gonna make it multiple words because I just watched, as we were podcasting, one of the networks had the Packers Cowboys playoff game from a couple years ago with that throw to Jared Cook.
Right.
So tweet me the phrase, or tweet us the phrase, Jerry Jones is a doof. That's a DOOF.
If you misspell it and write douche, we'll accept that as well.
I almost said douche, but then I thought I should probably back off, and now I kind of wish I had said douche.
Jerry Jones is a summer's eve. Was it Jerry Jones? Is that who we were talking about?
Yes. No, it was Antonio.
Thank God. Thank God. Seriously, guys, my memory.
What are your feelings on Antonio Brown, Kev?
I think he's a turd.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We will see you next week. Hopefully, we'll get a show in before the draft. If not, gentlemen, maybe we'll do a show on draft night and release it the next day. Again, who knows?
After we hack it.
Everybody's watching the draft, and these three ugly bugs pop up to make the Packers pick.
We just start doing Roger Goodell impressions with his mom.
I got to be honest with you guys. If I figure out a way to hack the draft, you're not going to see my face. You're going to see my ass. So be prepared for that.
Will your ass make a pick Jim Carrey style?
Yes, definitely.
Will it
That's a great
reach
idea.
This
Will it
pick stinks.
Josh Davenport? All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I got us past 60 minutes just to say we did. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week or sometime soon. Thanks for joining us. Kevin, quality use of the do-rag today.
The preceding podcast was a production of Productions Institute, LLC. Copyright 2019. All rights reserved.